Hello, and welcome to 30 Days of Community Building, a series in our We Are City of Five Nations podcast. I'm Daniel Shaughnessy, and I'm an addict. You know, I've never said that really before. But as I thought through our guests today and the realness of all of us in the City of Five Nations or any community in which we are around the world, you just never know who it is or what the background is behind the person that you're talking to. And a lot of times that's because of a fear of that individual or a vulnerability of that individual to actually express some of their own weaknesses. And so I'm so happy to have today Alicia Carter with me and Nikki Waters. These two ladies, as we bring them onto the screen for you to visit with on the side, as you can write any comments or any questions that you have, work, Alicia, day in and day out with addicts, just like me. And Nikki, a volunteer with Gateway to Recovery and Prevention, has very unique experiences that many of us can actually do as well to help us become more comfortable and to understand the wonder-filled life of people in recovery. Alicia and Nikki, thank you so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Happy to be here.
Alicia, back to your counseling days. So if somebody wanted to get involved with Gateway to Prevention and Recovery, what would that look like, or how could they do that?
Yeah, so especially now, given the current state of affairs, having support and someone to talk to and new ways to cope is extremely important. And so we help anyone with anyone that has substance use disorders that may think they do. And so our Shawnee office, which is at 1010 East 45th, is still taking walk-in patients. You would just call before you come in. And so our phone number is 273-1170, extension 0. We are still offering help. Although our main offices are shut down, we're still providing all of the same services over the phone. The counselors are calling, doing Zoom groups, and providing plenty of support and resources for our current patients. Something that is really excellent is that our staff want to help the broader community. And so this time is going to be hard for all of us. And so whether you have a substance use disorder or not, you are welcome to call our phone number. Like I said again, 273-1170, extension 0, and I'll put that number in the comments. You can call Monday through Thursday between 8 and 5, and on Friday between 8 and 3, and speak with a professional for free. And I just wanted to say also that all our copays are being waived right now. So now is a great time to get help.
Gateway to Prevention and Recovery. And I'm going to talk to Nikki real quick, all alone. Let me and Nikki have a moment together. I'm going to send you backstage, Alicia, and bring you back in a moment. Nikki, we go way back. You're one of my favorite people, part of one of my favorite groups we've ever had with the dinner group. We've had a lot of fun together.
Yes.
Well, how's Mike doing and your little baby, who's not a baby anymore?
No, she's 7 years old. Mike's doing great. And it's kind of a weird time with everything going on, but we're loving our time together as a family. And we're ready for the weather to warm back up, though, for sure.
And of course, Mike is Dr. Michael Waters, optometrist, 2020, North Harrison. I've always loved that number. And I don't know if you realize, I mean, it's been so long ago, but he and I met in leadership of all things so many years ago. And what a group that was. But you, Nikki, you have a background in helping people. Weren't you a counselor when you and Mike met?
Oh, yeah. It's funny you bring that up. Yeah, we were camp counselors together when we met back in 2000 at a camp called Camp Luther Homa in Tahlequah. So that's where Mike and I met, and here we are today, a long time later.
And you have nothing to do with Gateway other than you decided you wanted to be a helper. And that really, when I heard that and Alicia asked if Nikki Waters could come on, I thought, how apropos. I'd like to ask you, what have you learned as a volunteer with Gateway?
Well, I mean, so my interest in working with Gateway stems from having somebody that I care about who has been through the cycles of addiction and recovery and relapse. And, being there for that, you see how hard it is to stay clean, even if you do have strong family support. So I think about how much harder it has to be for somebody who is trying to stay clean and doesn't have that strong family. So that's kind of where my interest in being involved in the community came from. And so I reached out to a friend who's a mutual friend of Alicia's, and she got us connected. And so I started getting involved in volunteering, and really, I used to work in Oklahoma City, and so at the time I was commuting and working and super busy, and then I got the opportunity to work at Shawnee Milling Company. So now I'm here, and it was just the perfect time for me to have a little more free time to do something that had been on my heart for a long time.
Well, in your time being able to volunteer as you have you found the rewards that you had hoped to?
Yeah. So one of the great things that I get to do is go to the Wellness and Recovery lunches, which Alicia can give more information about those, but they're a monthly community lunch. And it's a really great time to show up, and I just get to cheer people on in what they're doing. So the people in recovery, it's really fun to celebrate. I got to celebrate somebody being 7 days clean. I got to celebrate somebody graduating drug court. I got to celebrate somebody choosing to play volleyball with sober sports instead of leaning back into old habits. So those lunches are just a time of celebration, and they fill me up, and I know they fill everybody else up. So that's something I look forward to every month, and I've really missed it because we haven't got to do it for a couple of months.
That is such a beautiful testimony. I'm going to bring Alicia back up, and I can attest to that as well, Alicia. Years ago, I remember getting an invite from you, and then a friend of mine took me, and we met over at the old Gateway building across from the airport, and I ran into people that I had known all my life, and you could really just tell the spirit of recovery and how important it is to people who really have regained life from almost seeming death. Talk a little bit about that and your heart behind those wellness lunches.
Nikki, thank you so much for sharing your story, and Daniel, your experiences there too. I love, Daniel, what you talked about even kind of the change and how the lunches functioned back then to how they function now. And my whole thought behind it is we talk about the stigma, that stigma of addiction. And you mentioned it earlier when you shared that it's hard to say because you don't know what people are how they're going to react. And I thought, man, it is so powerful when people share their stories, and there's so much work that goes behind that to do all of that hard work and then to feel like you can't share it with anybody. I didn't like that. And so these community lunches bring people with stories together to where you can be authentic and share where you've been and share where you want to go. And I've had to learn a lesson too, that I would say, okay, people in recovery and then the community. And I thought, wait a minute, people in recovery are the community. Community members can be and are people in recovery. Like, there's no difference. but how our environment is set up makes us feel like there's a difference, or these people are here and those people are there. And that's just not how it is. And even what I've learned through some of the speakers that speak at the lunches, that even though not everyone maybe has a story of recovery related to drugs and alcohol, one of my friends shared, and she was in one was in an accident and the other became sick. And so theirs was a story of physical recovery, mental recovery, emotional recovery in a different way, but the same feelings behind it. And so I love the term wellness and wellness in recovery, because even if the word addiction scares us or we don't identify as addicts, I haven't met a person yet that doesn't want to be well and isn't moving from the place that they are to a place of well-being. And we can all understand that and unify around that. And those lunches, like Nikki already said, we just get to celebrate our progress.
And this smile that you see is real. I mean, let me tell you, addict from the Merriam-Webster dictionary means one exhibiting a compulsive, chronic, physiological or psychological need for a habit-forming substance, behavior, or activity. Mm-hmm. So who is not an addict? I mean, really, when we start to think about one another, let's get over ourselves and think about all of us and how much better and how much more relieved we all can be when we are just real with one another. And, Alicia, I remember when I walked out of an apartment and I looked up in the sky and I said, I can't stop this. Mm-hmm. I can't do this anymore. I need help. Mm-hmm. I need your help. Mm-hmm. And, just in that realization of I can't do this and I need help, man, what a release I received. Mm-hmm. And is that part of the recovery process?
Yeah, it is sure hard to admit that we are not in control. And, some people find powerlessness over a substance no matter how hard they try. Myself, I think I can control everything else, people, places, and things. And I have learned that my life becomes unmanageable when I try to do that. And so, I work my own recovery program. I'm a part of the Al-Anon program, and that teaches me boundaries and self-care and how to take life one day at a time. And whether I'm in relationship with an alcoholic or an addict or not, I'm still in relationship with me. And I can get pretty wonky sometimes in my brain and my relationships. And so I think it's common for all of us to seek a sense of control or power over something. And then one day we have it and then the next day we don't. And it can be hard to admit when we don't. And I know for me, it took a lot of consequences, a lot of bumps upside the head before I was like, okay, I really don't have control. And so it's a process, but man, it is, and everybody has to come to it on their own, and that looks different. But whenever it is that we want some help, it is amazing to be able to have a community of people who are ready to hear and listen. And maybe in the beginning, that's at Gateway with therapists and with other group members. But what I have wanted to see is that this conversation can continue outside of Gateway. It can continue outside of 12-step recovery meetings, that any of us could go and talk about our recovery process and that be something that we're used to talking about.
Yeah, and there not be like a label or some sort of stigmatism put on any one of us just because we're sharing who we are. Mm-hmm. And Nikki, that brings me back to you in the sense of you work alongside, and I know that you've just shared that you had a background in which you were a little bit more familiar than many may realize they are, because many a lot of times don't realize that they have a background working with people who are addicted, or they just don't face it that they have. But how is it working alongside as a volunteer to people who are in recovery or who are addicted to certain things? Isn't it scary?
No, I mean, I've never thought of it that way. You know, as Alicia talked about a minute ago, we all have hard times. We all have times where we feel lonely or rejected, or lost. And, you know, I know that I'm just lucky that the vices I have don't have the consequences that drugs or alcohol have, but I still have my own vices. And so we're all just trying to get through life. And it's really unfair that in our society, the stigma associated with addict, that a person who's in recovery feels just completely named by that one word. I mean, can you think of being able to describe anyone you care about with just a single word? You can't. We're all very complex individuals with different sides, and we're interesting, and we have different focuses and different strengths. And so for an entire community to be labeled with one single word, that's so unfair. So, you know, like I said, I'm just lucky that I haven't turned to drugs and alcohol, but I still have my ways of dealing with things. Mm-hmm. So at the heart, I mean, we're all doing the same thing. We're all looking for wellness together. The other thing I want to mention is that it's hard for me to think about my time with Gateway as work or volunteering, because I'm just hanging out with people and having fun, or I'm sending a text message to someone to say hi, or you're doing good things today. Those are really easy things for me to do. I'm just being present. I'm just being a friend, and anyone can do that. And it's kind of amazing to stop and think about how easy that is for me to do, but what kind of impact that has on individuals who are lost or who feel like they don't have a place in society. So it's really rewarding, but also I get kind of lost in it thinking, well, it's no big deal. I just went and had lunch. Well, it is a big deal. So I want to encourage everyone to get out and attend the lunches and those things. I mean, because really it's about relationship and community and being there for each other.
In the city of Five Nations, you know, ladies, I don't know of a better two that I could have on this subject to talk to. Thank you for taking time to do this. And Alicia, I mean, gosh, you have a person like Nikki who just comes in off of the street that you get to work with. I mean, that's great for you. It's great for the people in recovery. But also, we know, and Nikki alludes to this, that people in recovery there is a battle going on. There's highs, but there's also lows. Can you describe for us or help us maybe to understand that person that we're standing across from and just trying to build relationship with maybe a little better?
I can do my best. You know, if you've never really walked in those shoes, then you're not really going to understand. And so that's why, you know, groups and meetings are so important for people to connect with people that know what that is. So what I'm going off of is, you know, what I've seen over the last 13 years and the stories that I've heard. So I'll start with, you know, the upside is, I'm kind of looking at my notes here, is that drug and alcohol addiction can really bring a person down pretty hard. And with that, though, comes less denial and more readiness to accept a new way. And sometimes there's legal consequences that provide extra accountability. So this disease sometimes drives people into treatment where they get to build relationships with trusted counselors and group members and share things with people that they've never got to share before. They get to be listened to and not judged. They get to have really great treatment. Daniel, like you've said, they regain physical health, their confidence, their families, their dreams, their drive, and they move into these new experiences and opportunities with all of this like grit and grind and stories that shape the next choices that they make. And so, you know, when you have someone that's in recovery in your office or on your team or as a friend, that's just invaluable to have someone like that. So a lot of neat things that I've seen. When I think of the negatives or the down part of it, I think about honestly what we're experiencing right now with the coronavirus. And I think, okay, right now we're disconnected. We're disconnected from our regular routine of our friends and our family, and we can't go around them. We have lost our normal things that we want to do, aren't safe for us anymore. And we've lost our independence and being able to say, well, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to get my hair done. I'm going to get my nails done. I'm going to go, you know, check on this person. And no, you can't, because the thing you want to do could kill you and could hurt other people around you too. And so I guess just think about how you feel right now in this moment of the coronavirus. And that's a little glimpse into what people, especially people new in recovery, face. Disconnection, a loss of normal, and a lack of independence and being able to choose what they want for themselves. And that's tough for anybody.
Yeah, the word that comes to my mind is vigor. There is, you know, within all of us, we've got this, you know, mentality working, you know, or our physiological self going on. And when you're addicted and you know you're addicted to something, there's a lot of vigor moving on around your head and everything else. And then when you step into recovery, that stuff doesn't just leave. It's just all got to change. It's like vigorous is happening all the time within recovery, and every choice is much bigger than what, if you just walk through normal life, it might be, you know, on an everyday basis to most other people. It's like a bunch of different choices, and you're thinking about every single one and the impact that they may have in 10 minutes. So in that, Nikki, as you are privileged, I mean, I think you have talked about being privileged to do what you do as you know, a way of giving, which comes so naturally to you. I'm sure there's a story perhaps of someone that really touched your heart and really touched you to say, you know, this is what it's all about. I know that this is right. Can you share with us perhaps a story of an individual or someone that sees victory?
Well, it's hard to pick just one because there's loads to celebrate in recovery. I mean, and I love to celebrate, so give me a reason. And
I can attest to that. She's a celebrator.
So, you know, specific to working with Gateway, I have gotten to see a friend regain custody of her kids and just be a parent and throw birthday parties and teach their kids how to do chores and all of those things. Yeah.
Mm.
It's so interesting how the normal for so many of us, for people just looking on the outside that maybe have never faced addiction before, take for granted, Nikki, exactly what you're saying. Just daily life. And what a victory that is, really, for all of us. But how, when you see someone who has been embattled for so long, be able to experience just normal,
Yep.
how it brings into perspective how cool our lives really are. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That story hits it on the head, girl.
Yeah. So good.
And Alicia, now I know you've seen a lot. Give us one of those victory stories, please. Let us know, in your perspective, what one of those stories looks like.
Okay, this one's going to be a little bit different, but we've been talking about the wellness groups, and our community service teams are one of those groups. And I sat in as kind of leadership and help with one of the Shawnee community service team for a year or so. And one thing I love about these wellness groups is that it puts people in recovery back in power. They lead it, they organize it the way they want to do it. Gateway, we're a support to them, we help them with their ideas, but we put the power back in their hands. And one meeting, it was when they were talking about wanting to do a food truck concession stand for these races that take place in Pink. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, all the things that have to go into that, and who's going to order the food, and how is the money going to stay, who's going to handle the money, and maybe we'll do it 1 week, but you're going to do it for 4 months, 5 months. I just did not see it as possible. And I was smart enough to say, if you all want to do this idea and can think of how to make this work, go ahead, because my brain, I can't make it work. And so I got myself out of the way. And don't you know, they've done that now for 2 seasons and have raised money to continue to support their service projects, to continue to help the community. And I think it was then that I realized I do not have to have all the answers. All I have to do is help cultivate people's potential and give them opportunities to do the things they love and that they're passionate about, and just get out of the way. And that continues to happen in our wellness groups. And so that's one of my favorite stories.
Well, I think you just described a little bit of your journey in recovery, Alicia, haven't you?
Boy, my sponsor would be proud of me.
Well, we're all proud of you. We're all proud of both of you. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I'm not blowing smoke when I said I was really looking forward to being able to talk a little bit about this with both of you. And your hearts are just so evident to try to help people. Nikki, is there anything else you'd like to share before I let you go?
No, except that there's a place for you in this organization, and there's exciting things happening, and it would be great to have some more friends.
And how about you, Alicia?
I'm just echoing what Nikki said. We have a very robust volunteer program, and a lot of that is through our partnership with Life Church, but you do not have to be a Life Church member to be one of our volunteers. And so I'll put my contact information in the comments, and there's a place. And if we haven't thought of the idea and you've got the idea, then we'll make it work.
Thank you, girls. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye, guys.
What a great time that we have. We are City of Five Nations podcast, and this is the series 30 Days of Community Building. Tomorrow, we're going to have a dad and a daughter team as we welcome the McNeils, as the daughter, Piper, is one of the best teenage swimmers in the entire country, which makes right here in the City of Five Nations, we have a resident who's one of the best swimmers in the world. Recently, she has picked up some more awards. We're going to talk with the dad and daughter duo of Bob and Piper McNeil at noon tomorrow. It'll be a lot of fun. You won't want to miss that. And I again want to thank Alicia Carter and Nikki Waters for joining us today as they do their fabulous work with Gateway to Recovery. And as always, thank you for watching with us. And remember, in the City of Five Nations, together we are building community one season at a time. See you guys.